What's going on, guys? Today I want to talk about Quarter Century Stampede. It's basically the next Rarity Collection, so this would be basically Rarity Collection 4, and we're about a month and a half away from this set, and we don't have that many spoilers on this set in general, so I figured today I wanted to talk about this set as a whole and talk about what cards with H.A.T format implications we might actually see in this set. So for example, different reprints and things that might be in this set that might either be rarity upgrades or, just be good reprints that you can use in your H.A.T format decks. And I know some people prefer to have original rarities in their deck and things like that, but for maybe people who do prefer the quarter centuries or they want easier access to these cards, I figured this would be a good little discussion to give my opinion and kind of my wish list as well on cards I would like to see, and give my whole reasoning on why I think some of these cards might be reprinted, and just, have a bit of a discussion on it. I thought it'd be a cool little topic since we are so close to this set actually coming out. And I also want to hear your guys' opinion on what cards you would like to see reprinted in this set. Again, I'm going to focus mostly on the H.A.T format cards, but I know there's going to be tons of other, whether that's meta-relevant cards in current formats or other cards for other past formats, such as Edison or, Goat format, Tengu plant format. And that actually brings me to one of my first little bits of discussion before I actually get into start naming some of my personal top picks for this set, is this set, we have a little bit of a description of what this set is going to be based on. We know that it's similar to the last Rarity Collection, is going to have that separate 200 card nostalgia pool, that all the cards are going to be either platinum or quarter century. So that is very cool to see. And the thing with that is, a while back, I think it was while we were still waiting on a release for Quarter Century 3, or, Bonanza as it was called, we did have a survey from Konami that was asking cards we would like to see in the set. Now, obviously, at that point, we already kind of figured they already had Bonanza figured out, so it kind of implied there was going to be this set. And for that, we did know, that they gave us a bit of a overshadow on what is going to be for Stampede. And they basically took the top 100 finalist card pool and they said a third of it was already going to be in the set. And, the other little bit of it, is going to be just some of the top picks. So the thing with that is some of these cards might be completely random. For example, we see stuff like Petite Moth and stuff. Or we might see cards that have nothing to do with H.A.T format in general, such as like Masterpiece and stuff. But there's still going to be a handful of those cards that probably are from past formats. And the other thing is we do have the 3v3 YCS coming up, and we don't know that much about that event either. And the reason I wanted to quickly bring that up is because for the Ultimate Time Wizard, we don't know what, at least at this current moment of recording, we don't know what the different, formats are going to be. Most people are speculating it's going to be similar to the last one we had, that was Goat format, Edison format, and Tengu plant format. So some of the cards that I'm going to mention in this probably are going to have crossover with those formats specifically, just because, if we're speculating on something like that, there's a high chance of that. The other thing to keep in mind for this is we also, there's a lot of things that happened in the last one. For example, we got a lot of those cards up to Tengu plant format. So the question is, if this is going to be one of the last sets showing off quarter centuries, are they going to continue where they left off, which would put us right at, they did some Dragon Ruler format cards and stuff. That's going to leave us right around Firewater format and H.A.T format, and then keep moving past into DUEA format, and so on and so forth through like Zoo format and things like that. So that could mean, we're getting tons of different older format cards all the way up till modern, or they might put more focus on the older half of this. So that kind of is why I feel there's a good chance we could get H.A.T format cards. And in general, again, a lot of these cross over into that. But now that this bit of discussion is over, I'm going to switch over to another screen and we can actually get started on some of these predictions. All right, so while I do want to say about Max C being a potential pick, this is one of the cards that we do know is going to be reprinted in this set. So that is very good, as even though Max C had a lot of printings, they still did have a bit of value, even the commons and stuff. And even with the Speed Duel reprinting, even the Prismatic Secrets were somewhere around like $10 to $15 each. It still is always nice to have more reprints, and for people that like Quarter Century, to match with a lot of their other, cards that got reprinted in the previous ones. This is going to be a good card for that, though again, we did already know of this. So there's a lot of routes we could actually go to start this conversation, as I have a small bit of a list made, and then I'm just going to kind of wing the rest of it. But one of the other cards that came to mind when I thought of this was Bottomless. And the reason I say Bottomless is simply because in terms of H.A.T format staples, the main four being Compulse, Bottomless, Torrential, and Warning, we do have the other ones already reprinted. And the other thing to note with that is, obviously this does have implications in a lot of other formats, specifically being stuff like Edison. So I think this is a prime candidate. And to pair with that, I could definitely see a card like the Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare being reprinted, simply because I feel like it would be cool to put this, and the Traptrix one just kind of to me made a little sense, because I think they might even put something like Mermail in the set, simply because it has had its more recent structure deck in the past couple years, and it's a card that doesn't have a lot of printings outside of the structure deck, and then the Megatin from a long time ago, as well as I believe it had a gold series printing too. So this is a card that I could 100% see being in there if they choose to put Bottomless, just to have a little, synergy with it in a sense. Do I see Dianea? I'm not entirely sure, if I'm being completely honest on that one, though it could be a possibility. After that, I think another card that could definitely be in here that I think a lot of people are hoping for is Dimensional Prison. Sorry, I'm like typing this out as I go. Hopefully I can find it easily here. And this is just another card that has a lot of implications in other formats, Edison being a main one. And this was a card I think people thought was going to be in several different rarity collections, and it just sort of missed the whole mark on that. Besides that, I'm just going to probably go through some of the more traps first. I think it might be the easiest. Speaking of traps, I think Trap Stun is a card that has needed a reprint for a while now. Its secret rares were worth quite a bit of money, I think like close to like $10 to $20. The super rare printings were going up in price too, and just in general, it's one of those cards that it's generic enough that I could see them putting in a set like this, just because it, has seen play in so many different formats. After that, I think another good one is going to be Fiendish Chain. Let me try to find it here for you guys. Fiendish Chain is another card. Again, it's played in a ton of different formats. It hasn't had any sort of modern reprint in a higher rarity, so I think it's a prime target for something like this. Similarly, I think this next one, I don't know how I feel about it, but I think almost Blackhorn could potentially be in this set as well. Maybe this is more of just a personal take of wanting to see this card in a higher rarity, but besides its alti printing, it doesn't really have that many printings in general. It has like a rare, an ultra rare, it's alti printing. I don't remember if it has a super. I don't believe so. I know it has like DT and stuff. This may be a little more of a personal preference, though I think it would be a pretty cool card to see. Similarly, another card, I guess, close to Trap Stun that had a reprint in the Legendary collections as a secret. I think Debunk is a great card that needs a reprint, and it's another one of those cards similar to the higher end Trap Stuns that did get bought out for a while and had jumped in price, and it's one of those cards that it is super niche, so it kind of falls in the same category, in my opinion, as Blackhorn, where I don't necessarily expect it, but it would be a nice card if it was actually put in this set. The next card I think that could be reprinted is going to be Soul Drain. And the reason I say Soul Drain is simply because in the past rarity collections, they have put several other floodgates. For example, Skill Drain has been in there. They've put things like Anti-Spell Fragrance and stuff like that. And this card has actually seen more modern play against decks like Malice. So putting a copy of Soul Drain would just kind of fit the build of cards that they've put in the past in these sets. And in general, you know, it has jumped up in price. The super rares have gone up and the larts have gone up. And it just feels like one of those cards that should be in a set like this, simply because it has its meta implications, as well as I don't think it really had many reprints prior. It had the super rare, the rare, and the Lart, and if I'm remembering correctly, that may have been it. I forget. It probably had another rare printing or something, but definitely not the most, so it seems like a good candidate. And speaking of which, people love their old format, like kind of trappy type cards. So Dust Tornado and Waboku are cards that I think a lot of people have wanted reprinted for a very long time in a higher rarity, because Dust Tornado, it had its ultra printing, I believe is the highest, unless we're talking like DT and stuff, depending on how you rank your high rarities. And Waboku simply, I think, had DT and that was it. You could almost say something like Threatening Roar, though I don't know if they would actually put Threatening Roar. I guess I'll put it here for now, simply because it kind of falls into the same category as these other two, where it's a card that, while I guess Threatening Roar does have a secret rare printing, it also has a DT printing. They're cards that have seen play in several different formats, and people have wanted in higher rarities. Again, Threatening Roar does have a secret. It also has its like CP super and stuff, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Though they just kind of feel like cards. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but that's my opinion on that. After that, obviously, a lot of hat format enthusiasts would want something like Breakthrough Skill. This card recently got a reprint in the Battle City set or Battle Speed Duel set, whatever it is, as a Prismatic Secret. So with that being said, I think this card kind of is on Konami's radar in terms of a card that they could be reprinting. So I definitely think that that has a good chance, especially people wanting hat format stuff, because the hat format, a bit of that jump in hat format hype was during the time this survey was coming up. So people may have actually put that as a card they would want to see. After that, we have some discard type cards that see some play in, say, Dragon Ruler format, as well as Edison format, and both of which, don't have many printings, and that is going to be stuff like Karma Cut. I think that's a card that really needs a reprint. All the versions of this are worth money. I have some Alti first ones, and last I checked, they were like $90 each, and even then, all the way down to like DT Gold and Rares are all worth like almost, I think, at least $5 each. So this card could definitely use a reprint, also being to pair with it Raigeki Break, where the super rares of this were very expensive. I know Meadowlands format also played Raigeki Break, if I'm remembering correctly. Similarly with cards like, what is it called? Reckless Greed is another card that fit into that kind of category of, they had like high rarities as supers, but other than that, they didn't even have that many like high rarity printings. So I know a lot of people want stuff like this just more accessible so that they can actually bling out their deck and make it look nice. The last trap I can think of, like right off the top of my head, is going to be Artifact Sanctum. And the reason I say this is, one, obviously because it's such an integral card to hat format as a whole, as well as the fact that this card is seeing modern play right now, simply because it's a thrust target to be able to get this and then be able to use it to go into Lancia, which is a very strong card in the meta right now. Again, bringing up Malice, it's just such a strong card to be able to use. Obviously, it would be wishful thinking for us to get cards like Scythe and other things. Um, is there a potential for something like Artifact Ignition? I think if they put Sanctum, they might kind of want to pull towards the nostalgia factor and put things like Ignition in there to kind of match with it. And at that point, I think Moraltac too. If they put Moraltac, I would want something like Beagletac, though I couldn't see them wasting a spot on Beagletac, though, again, they did put something like Petite Moth in here. So anything's really possible if we, squint our eyes hard enough. So for that, I want to wishfully think that at least Moraltac would be in there with the Sanctum. Would they put Ignition? I don't know. We could put it in here just to kind of have the main three in this package. Even Durendal isn't like the worst option since there was that hand loop version of Ryziel going on. So I almost would say that this could be an option as well. Do I think, again, that something like Durendal or Ignition are going to be in the set? It's hard to say just based on how many slots are available, and kind of going back to that discussion of, are they going to move forward from the last one, or are they going to put more Tengu Plant format if they're planning to have the Ultimate Time Wizard and stuff feature Tengu Plant, even though I'm pretty sure the Ultimate Time Wizard is before this set actually comes out, but it would kind of get more people interested. But in general, I think that's like the main thing I'm thinking there. So let's move on to, I guess, let's talk a little bit about spells, because the first thing I'm thinking right now is Tenki. Oops, I spelled that really wrong there. But I think Tenki is a very good candidate to get reprinted here. They've printed it in several different sets in the past couple years. I think it got a rare and a CR. And just in general, it's a very historic card throughout several different formats. And it's just a great card. So do I think they could put this as a QCR and a Platinum? I think it's had enough impact on formats in the past that it very well could be. And to pair with that, with the wishful thinking, I am going to say that Fire Fist Bear could, let me see, Fire Fist Bear. Okay, maybe not. Oh, it's right here. I think Bear could get a QCR because I know that the OCG did get a kind of Fire Fist themed promotional package that had like a playmat, I think a deck box, some sleeves, and other stuff, and they got a QCR version of Bear. So that kind of pairs very well with the Tenki if they were to do that, just because, again, it's a very iconic card. And if they are planning to move forward, Meadowlands format, Firewater format, all that good stuff, this is more moving forward with where we left off with the last Rarity collection. So I think that would be a very good card there. After that, I think Solar Recharge is a good candidate, partially because of Edison, also because just Lightsworn generically is a deck that is a fan favorite, and the last time they put, or was it the last one or the time before that, they put Charge of the Light Brigade in the Rarity collection. So I definitely think they would want to pair it with the next best spell for them, which is going to be this. Do I think they're going to put other Lightsworn stuff? That's hard to say. I know they put JD in the last one, and if they were to put any Lightsworn names, I think Lila is probably one of the main targets for it, simply because, again, Edison format is extremely popular. It's probably, well, it is the, most represented Time Wizard format. And if it's not Lila, I think it's probably going to be Lumina. And I don't, like, Raiden would be really cool for us, but I can't really see them putting that much slots into just making high rarity Lightsworn for us. And for that reason, again, if they put a Lightsworn, I could definitely see these two and the Recharge. I don't know if I could see other Lightsworn names specifically at the moment. After that, I think Forbidden Chalice is a very good candidate to get reprinted. I think a lot of people thought this was going to be in the last Rarity collection because they did Lance previously, if I remember correctly. If it was, I keep getting 1 or 2 and 3 Rarity collection confused. I know they did Lance, so I could definitely see something like Chalice, and again, it was one of the cards that I thought would have been reprinted in the last one, so I think it's finally time that this card gets a reprint. It has its alti printing, it has ultra printings, and then it has, I believe, super printings in Asian English, and a couple other random printings, but it needs a QCR just simply because it does see play in other formats as well, and it kind of pairs really nicely with the Forbidden cards. After that, I could definitely see some Dragon cards getting reprinted, especially given last time they gave us obviously Blue Eyes, which was bound to be in Rarity Collection just as a card that's iconic. But also we got things like White Stone, and with the Blue Eyes structure deck and stuff being released currently, while they might not be playing it, I think a lot of Dragon enthusiasts probably would want some things that cross over, and there's some Edison crossover as well, and for that reason, I think something like a Cards of Consonance could definitely be a card that they reprint. For, it had its Exodia decks it was played in. It had just several different, I think Dragon Turbo and Edison was playing it and stuff like that. So that feels like a very good card. And if they're doing Cards of Consonance, I think that Dragon Shrine is another really good card that I could potentially see in this set. Dragon. Is it Dragon Shrine? Oh, I misspelled it. My bad. Let's see here. Dragon Shrine. Yeah. So obviously having lots of hat format implications, but also this saw it play in, the different pendulum eras with Dark Worm and stuff like that. And Blue Eyes, I think, was playing this around the time of Worlds and stuff when it had won that. So I could be mistaken on that. I know it came out in one of the the Blue Eyes structure deck from back then. So this just feels like another card that it hasn't had a reprint in a pretty long time, or I guess a high rarity reprint. I think it had a common and rare reprint in a side set, but other than that, it only has super and secret rares. So I would definitely like to see that reprinted in one of these sets. And another card that kind of fits that kind of aesthetic is going to be Burial from a Different Dimension. And this just has a lot of implications throughout so many different formats. Just being able to return 3 of your remove from play cards to the graveyard, or remove from play monsters, I should say. And just in general, if they did all of the different Dragon Ruler type cards in the last Bonanza, then this just feels like one of those cards that should be reprinted. It has its DT and it has its ultra rare, but I don't think this card even has a secret rare. I know it has like a super and a normal rare, so this is a card I would definitely like to see reprinted in this set as well. Now, the next two don't really have that much hat format implication. They have a little bit, but not really an outstanding amount, but it just kind of falls into what they've done in the past, which is put a lot of hero cards in these types of sets. And for that reason, I think Emergency Call, I cannot type and do this at the same time, I think is a very good card to be in here. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this. So I think Emergency Call is a card that we could see in here. I know, again, it doesn't have that much run through in hat format, but just in general, its last high rarity printing, I think, was a secret rare. It also had its like silver rare in one of the like reprint sets. I can't exactly remember which one it is. It's the one that had Big Eye and some other things that we'll talk about later. But Emergency Call just feels like one of those cards given how much hero support they have been putting in these. And to kind of pair with something like that, I think Miracle Fusion is another card that's just been needing a reprint in the hero department. Like, I'm surprised that these two haven't been reprinted yet, given the other type of stuff. Like, last time they gave us Thunder Giant. I don't really understand that, but these are just very iconic cards, and people love their hero cards. And similarly, A Hero Lives is another card. Like these three, I'm surprised haven't been in one yet. Maybe they were just waiting for this last hurrah to get more attention on the set, but I really would like to see these. Again, they don't see the most hat format play. They see, some Edison play and formats moving forward. Like I know a little bit past Duelist Alliance format into, I think it may have been like Clown format when they had the Dark Law and everything like that. These cards were definitely a lot more relevant. And even into more modern Yu-Gi-Oh, they just put out the Evil Hero stuff. So there's a lot of eyes on heroes in general. So these are 3 more cards I would like to see in this set. The last spell that I can think of off the top of my head right now is obviously Konami did something with the last rarity collection that we didn't really think they were going to do, and that's put ban cards in this. Now, obviously, it's a completely different line of, play now for them by going and putting a lot of ban cards in these sets. Even cards, again, that we just could never see really coming off the ban list. And for that reason, I think Soul Charge is a card that I don't necessarily think it would look good in, a QCR or something. I would have to see. But seeing that they put Vanity's Emptiness in the last one, I think Soul Charge is very deserving of a QCR. It didn't even have a secret rare printing. It just had like the Dusa rares, or the Dusa rarity, the ultra rares, supers, and then some commons. So Soul Charge just feels like one of those cards. It's very iconic. It's very banned. And it's a card that hat format obviously is very known for, the same way it is with things like Vanity's Emptiness. So I would definitely like to see something like Soul Charge, but again, that's the last spell I can think of at the moment. So let's move into some more monsters. And so the first one that came to mind thinking of this, besides obviously the ones that were mentioned before, are going to be Abyss Pike. And the reason I say that is because of all the new Mermail support. And in general, this card only had a rare and a super printing, and those had jumped in price. And given that they put things like Dragoons in the last rarity collection, it doesn't feel far off that they would put something like Pike. And in general, a lot of people were wanting this reprinted and it just never got one. So Pike feels like it has a strong chance of getting reprinted. Moving along with cards that got a reprint and their kind of counterpart didn't, I think Dark Grepher is a very good candidate. It has so many different applications in so many different formats and stuff. So I think that Grepher is very deserving to meet with Armageddon Knight, obviously, and have its QCR reprint. I think a lot of people would be very hyped for something like that. The next couple ones that I'm going to mention are definitely more of my personal want list that I feel also kind of have a chance of being reprinted, and they are hand traps to an extent. Obviously, I'm talking about Herald of Orange Light. I thought they were going to put this in the last one. It has recent enough play all the way into Melodious and stuff, as well as it has plenty of old applications in any of the decks, like the Herald of Perfection decks. It has crossover in decks more recently like Tearlaments, and I think that it just feels like a card that would look really good in QCR, especially given the last time they did give us Herald of Perfection. So I feel this is a very deserving card of a reprint, and again, it's a card that didn't have that many, rarities. It got an OTS Super, it had a Astral Pack Alti, or maybe an OT or S Alti, I can't exactly remember, but then other than that, it was just rares and commons for the most part. And again, hand traps that have old implications and are iconic, I want to say Battle Fader feels like a card that could get a reprint, not because it's seeing any sort of play necessarily, but again, it's just an iconic card, and in the past, it's been a card that's been used quite heavily for a lot of different Monarch strategies, and just basically ever since it came out, a lot of those older formats would use this. I remember even all the way into 2015 or 2016, in Monarch format, Domain Monarch and stuff, or even Cosmo format. I remember there was a stream highlight from, it might have been a Nationals or a YCS, where someone had game and they went to push and someone dropped Fader. So I think an iconic card like this, and if they're going to do Battle Fader, I think Swift Scarecrow is also a very good choice for a set like this. Its highest rarity is a super, and that was in an Astral pack a long time ago. So I think something like Swift Scarecrow feels like a card that I would like to see. After that, this one I feel is very wishful thinking, and that's going to be Card D. Obviously everyone knows this card in H.A.T format. It had some implication previously in other formats with things like Hieratics and stuff, but I would like to see this card reprinted. Do I necessarily see them actually doing it? Not really. It's definitely wishful thinking on my part, and I think it would look really, really nice as a QCR or Platinum, or just in general having a reprint. Its original printing is secret. I do like how my secrets look. Besides that, though, it just has supers and commons and like black rares from Battle Pack. So it's a card that probably needs a upgrade at some point, so that's why I'm going to put it here. Next, I want to say for my Lightsworn Ruler enjoyers, Necrogardna is another card that randomly shot up in price, Edison implications, and past formats in general. It feels like a card that could be in this set. It's a really cool card, and I think its highest rarity is its ulti, and then other than that, it had like a secret. It's super from the same set it became ulti in, so that's a card I would like to see reprinted as well. The last few monsters I'm thinking when I go and actually think of monsters and things I want reprinted are probably going to be more Tengu Plant format reprints. And I say that simply because they did put so many in the last rarity collection that it felt like it was kind of weird that they left them out. That being was it TG I'm trying to remember the name of it, the Striker, and just, I guess, the whole TG package as a whole. They did put Librarian in one of the past rarity collections, but the main ones I'm talking about are going to be TG Striker, that, you know, it had an ultra rare printing, a rare printing, and that may have been it, or some lower ones. I don't think this card even had a secret rare. TG Warwolf also, I think these are just two very iconic cards. I mean, take Striker, for example. I believe it was limited at one point. I don't think it ever got to the point of being banned. I might be just forgetting there, but these are two cards that I genuinely am surprised they didn't reprint the last time. And if we're doing that, we could almost say even Rush Rhino. TG Stun was a very iconic deck during that format, Tengu Plant format and stuff, and in that time period around there. And the fact that they've made so much of the newer support for TGs also being QCR, it just feels like their main ones, you know, the ones that everyone knew should be, especially if they were gonna go and, looking back, do something like Librarian. These just feel like they should fit into that. And with that deck, you know, they even did like, what was the card? They did Skill Drain. They did Horn of the Phantom Beast, which was a card for that deck. Like, so many things. And so the next card is also related to that, and that is going to be Beast King Barbaros. This card has H.A.T format implications in several different decks, but also, again, it just goes back to that TG era, where if we're thinking that TG is going to be included in that Ultimate Time Wizard 3v3, that I think, you know, even though, again, I believe that that 3v3 is taking place before this set comes out, I think it's still on people's mind to get more people interested in that format. And it is a very fun format. Obviously, I'm not hating on it. I'm looking at it more so from the perspective that I really enjoy H.A.T format the most, but I do look and play a lot of other, you know, retro formats, and Barbaros has its highest rarity as an ultra rare, as a jump promo, and then other than that, it just has a super and some lower rarities. Unless I'm forgetting something, I'm pretty sure ultra is its highest, so getting a reprint of that would be very nice. And lastly, I want to say that Grand Mole is an iconic enough card that it probably should have a reprint. It's a hero card in a sense, you know, it's a Neospatian, and it's been, I believe, limited. I forget if it was ever banned. I'm pretty sure it's always been limited. And then, it came off the list years later. But very iconic card, very cool card for a lot of past formats. People love this card, and it feels like a fan favorite card that could see a QCR in this set. But anyways, I think the next thing I want to move on to is going to be some extra deck cards. So let's get right into that. So on the theme of Tengu Plant format and just in general cards that have H.A.T format crossover, I think I want to start the extra deck monsters with the Karakuri synchros. I think Beret and Beredo would be very good reprints. They had gold printings. They had obviously their original Ultra and Ulti printing. They had, at least Beret had a super rare tin promo printing, but they haven't had a lot of printing since, and they actually are worth quite a bit of money for their higher rarity versions. So I think starting out, those two would be very good reprints, and they don't really need anything else to be paired with them to be seen in that set. Last time they did other machine cards, for example, they did Card Trooper, Machine Duplication, and things of those sorts. So I could definitely see these two being in, this set. They are fan favorites. People love the Karakuris. So I definitely want to start off by saying that I could see these in that set. Moving forward, another synchro that I don't see them reprinting, but the fact that it doesn't have a lot of printings, it would be kind of cool if they did. That is going to be Star Eater. Again, not the most hope on them actually doing this one, but I think that would be cool. That kind of fits in same with like Leo, Keeper of Trees, or Sacred Trees. That would be a really cool card. I don't know if I could see them doing that. I would definitely see Star Eater before that, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities of seeing something like that, and I think that would be really cool. Now that I'm looking at this list, and seeing Pike, I think the next best card is going to be Abyss-Gaios. And Abyss-Gaios, people have wanted this reprinted for a while. I think the Ultras or Altis had shot up to like almost 80 at one point in recent times because of the new support for Mermail and everything. I think they've gone down a bit now and are closer to like the 40 to 60 range. But this card has no reprints. It only has its original. And so, having easier access to a card like this, I'm sure is on a lot of people's lists of things they'd like to see. And speaking of rank 7s, I think going back to what I said before, that Big Eye feels like a card that should have been in the last one, especially given the fact that they did Dracosac and all the Dragon Rulers. This card, I'm just shocked, wasn't in the last one. I don't know why it didn't show up there. So I think in this one, it is finally time to put something like Big Eye in this type of set. Next, another card with more modern format implications. I'm going to say Exciton is a very good card. This is one I wanted in the last rarity collection, but now that it's seeing more play in Ryzeal and the Fiendsmith variants, I definitely could see something like Exciton finally getting a QCR. I think it would be really cool, and besides its silver rarity that came out, I think in the same set that Big Eye came out in, the last reprint for this that was easily accessible was, it might have been its secret rare reprint that was in the Megatins a long time ago. So this just feels like a card that has had a long time coming. And speaking of Ryzeal type cards and just, very iconic cards, we're talking Gaga Cowboy is a great card that could be reprinted. This card defined a whole format of play, as well as obviously there was the whole Triff incident with Cowboy and stuff. And this just feels like a card that if they're going to put something in the last rarity collection or the one before that being Dweller, it feels like Cowboy is in the same level of a card, not necessarily power level, but it just feels like they group very well together. Two more cards that group very well together and have historically been great cards. I'm talking about the Hidden Arsenal cards of Daigusto Emerald. This card, it's still at 1 today. It was iconic back in the day when it came out. It was iconic in the zoo format. And even I believe in a couple OCG lists for Ryzeal or a couple other decks have even started teching this. I saw the other day a couple pro players in the OCG had posted some deck lists, and Emerald was floating around. So I think that's a very good card, and to pair with that, if they are putting banned cards, I think Lavalval Chain is very needing of a reprint. Again, I do love my original rarities. I always like the DTs I have. Even the secret rares from the Hidden Arsenal look amazing, but I think that these two just feel like cards that you can't not put in a set if we're trying to move forward and put iconic fan favorite type cards. So I definitely would like to see these. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but again, I think they are very deserving. Next, I want to say Constellar Pleiades. Again, it's another Hidden Arsenal card, and it's a card that saw play even up until, Eldritch. So this just is a cool card, and if we're going to do that, I think M7 needs a reprint. This card had even more recent play than even Pleiades. Once Beatrice got banned and stuff, people started looking into this as a rank 7 option for a handful of different decks. I don't think it ever really took off, but what did take off was the price of them that shot up in price. So I think having a reprint of both of those would be very good, and obviously H.A.T format would love it for those reasons. Being able to make these with the artifacts and stuff and then stack this on top is just an amazing thing. And again, they don't have that many reprints, especially in more recent times, so I think they're perfect for this set. In the spirit of tying up loose ends for this set, I think Alucard is another card that could definitely use a reprint. I know Goblin Bikers had made this go up for a little bit because of plays with F-Zero, and even though that deck isn't super relevant, I know they put Angel of Mischief in either the first or second rarity collection, so it definitely made sense that Alucard would have got a reprint, but it simply didn't in Bonanza. So I think Alucard is another card that just feels like it should be in this set. Similar to cards like Forbidden Lance and Dimensional Prison and even Rescue Rabbit that got reprinted, I think cards like Dalka and Logia are cards that could see a reprint in this rarity collection, as well as they've also been seeing a little bit of play in the more recent Dino support stuff that have come out. I could definitely see Logia getting reprinted over Dalka, though again, it's kind of one of those pairs of cards that if they put one, they probably should put the other one, and so I am going to group these together and say it would be very nice to see those together. And similarly on theme, and just a very iconic card that should be reprinted, I'm going to say Leviair is a card, if I can spell maybe, is a card that I think should be reprinted. It doesn't have many printings. This is a card that I personally have wanted and needed more copies of. I have alties and stuff, but other than that, it has like a, Battle Pack reprint. It has a super rare printing, and then not a whole lot else. So this is definitely a card that I could see them reprinting, and I really hope that they reprint. It has a ton of old format implications outside of H.A.T format. It has implications in formats that are ahead of H.A.T format. For example, Phantom Knights and stuff like that. And it just is a very good, solid card with not a lot of reprints. So I think it would be a perfect card for a fan favorite type set, as well as a set that has old format implications. And on the same level as that, as well as being one of the first like big Xyz monsters, we have Zenmaines that, everyone remembers this card as a whole. People remember it being extremely expensive. I know I sure do, and so I 100% could see a card like this being in the set if they do choose to keep moving forward. People really do like, wind-ups and stuff in general, so I could almost see them putting the Carrier too if they really wanted to, especially given they're trying to put more ban cards to get more people interested in these types of sets. So could you see something like Zenmaity? Maybe it's a possibility. I guess I'll put it here just to play it safe. This is one of those cards people still debate to this day if it should come off the list. I personally don't know, but here we are with that there. After that, let me try to think if there's anything else I can think of. I think maybe even Felgrand is a card that would be pretty cool to see a reprint. This card hasn't had a reprint in a long time, and it's another one of those cards that did shoot up in price for a while. It still might be worth quite a bit of money. I know ghosts were like 50 plus for a while, and even the secrets kind of got bought out a bit, even the Megatin ones. So that would be a great card to see reprinted. Same with something like a Gaia Dragon. Oop, I accidentally did that, my bad. Gaia Dragon feels like a card that could use a reprint. The alties got bought out, and other than that, it just has had really weird rarities. This saw a lot of play in so many different formats, whether it's because they're hard making it as a level 7, or because they're stacking it on top of a rank 5 or 6. It's just a cool card. Has it had any more recent reprints? I know it had like a Battles of Legend ultra rare, but other than that, I can't really think of anything, so that might be another cool card. Super Heavy Samurai was a popular deck for a short amount of time before they gave it some hits with Scarecrow and stuff, but I think Geargia is a very good, choice as another card that could see a reprint, just as a generic machine searcher and a very iconic card again, and, throughout time has seen a lot of play, whether that's Earth Machine all the way back to Geargia and stuff in Vegas format and all those previous formats. That feels like a good reprint. Other than that, that's really everything I can kind of think of off the top of my head in terms of all of these. There's only 200 nostalgia pool spots, so unless they choose to put something like the Pike and some of these other cards in the main set, I don't even know if I would see them putting this many of, this era type cards in the nostalgia pool, since again, there is only 200 spots. Oh, I guess also maybe like Tyrus would be a good reprint that we haven't had in quite some time. But yeah, no, I think, if we could see at least half of these in that set, that would be so cool. If we saw all of them, that would be crazy. I would be crying inside because of how much money I'd have to spend that I just simply don't have for that. But I think it would be pretty cool to see these cards in there. If there's anything you think I missed from, again, I'm trying to focus more on cards that do see some sort of hat format play, even if it's not that much, or if I just think they're good reprints as a whole. There's definitely tons of Edison type cards, like, for example, Magical Android, or, we know that cards like Metamorphosis for GOAT players is getting reprinted. We know Trap Dust Shoot. So, I could get into the more modern stuff, but for the theme of my channel being a lot more old school format, I think these ones specifically fit my channel the best. And in general, I genuinely could see a handful of these getting reprinted if they choose to go down the same route as the previous rarity collections they've done. But if I did miss anything, definitely let me know in the comment section. If there's cards you want to see reprinted or you think could actually be in this set, definitely let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it, comment any questions or videos you want to see in the future, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified anytime I put a new video out, share this video with your friends. And anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video.